Okay, let's see how we can tackle what we call finding atomic particle inventory. On this sheet, we have several bits of information listed and or information we need to find. First thing we're going to find and see is the element column. You're going to list what element we're talking about. Now that element is very specifically linked to the atomic number because the element is dictated by the amount of protons that it has, which is defined again as the atomic number. And you're going to need the periodic table to go between atomic number and element. So you're going to need a periodic table nearby to determine what's what. Now, as we said before, the periodic table, the atomic number, the atomic number is defined as the number of protons. So these are all very interrelated. If you know the protons, you know the atomic number. It's the same. So both of those columns should have exactly the same value all the way down. And for this particular exercise, we're assuming these are all neutral atoms. And when you're neutral atoms, that means that the protons and electrons are going to be the same quantity also. So electrons and protons need to be the same also because, again, if I have, let's say in this first example, say if I have 6 protons, I'm going to need, that would be 6 pluses. I'm going to need 6 electrons or 6 minuses to cancel that out because positive 6 and negative 6 would equal 0. You're neutral. All right. Well, let's stick with this first example. We can see this first example said that, 6 protons, and therefore it's got an atomic number of 6. And if you look in the periodic table, atomic number 6 is carbon. We discussed that the 6 protons has to have the 6 electrons to balance it electrically. We also noticed that this has 6 neutrons. And that's important because the mass number here, that's going to be equal to your protons and your neutrons. So your protons and neutrons have to equal your mass number. So 6 plus 6 equals 12, which is important, and it's going to help tell us a lot of things. Now we're going to use this information to find other pieces of this table, and some of it's going to be straightforward and some of it's going to be tricky because in this first example for carbon, we can see that, it was all done for us. All the spots were filled. But in the rest of this sheet, that's not necessarily the case. So let's see about finishing this up. In this example, calcium. Well, if you look at the periodic table, calcium has an atomic number of 20, but the sheet already had that. And if that's true, if I have 20 for the atomic number, that means I have 20 for protons. And that means if I have 20 for protons, that means because I want to be electrically neutral, that means I must have 20 for electrons. Now, the mass number I'm looking for, and the mass number is, again, the protons and the neutrons added together. Well, 20 plus 20, that's going to give me 40. And so the mass number of calcium in this particular example is 40. We're all done. Okay, pretty easy. But then things get trickier in this next example, because in this next example, they don't give us a lot of information. They give us electrons, and they give us mass number. And I have to figure out everything else. Well, let's see how we can use this information. Well, mass number is equal to the protons and the neutrons, but I don't have either of those. Well, and I don't have any of the other, but I do have electrons, and the electrons can help me because I already know that electrons and protons for a neutral atom have to be the same because the pluses and the minuses have to balance each other. So I know protons because I know electrons, 11 and 11. And if I know the protons, that means I know the atomic number. And if I know the atomic number, of course I can look on the periodic table. The periodic table says that the atomic number of 11 corresponds with sodium, Na. And so I'm almost there. I'm almost done. The last thing I have to figure out is neutrons. So 11 plus what equals 23? Well, 11 plus 12. So 11 plus 12, that's going to give me the 23 I'm looking for. And that's it. Now the rest of the sheet has its own, different problems or different ways of looking at it. So it's a little bit of a puzzle, but and some of the numbers get a little big down the bottom. I mean, down here, we're going to deal with some larger mass numbers. So you might want a little basic calculator on your side to do some basic addition and subtraction. But other than that, it should be pretty clear cut. So give it a try.